Yes, good afternoon. Thanks very much indeed, Tim. My name is Michael Aldridge, and I'm the CEO of Hexima. I'm very pleased to be here today. So on this first slide, I've really just tried to capture a quick summary of everything you need to know about Hexima and our lead program. It's a relatively simple story. Unlike many biotech companies, this is pretty clean. So Hexima, it's an Australian company, Australian biotechnology company. We're traded on the ASX under the ticker HXL, and we're developing a product we called Pazadeftide. Previously, it was known as HXP124, but Pazadeftide is a new topical product for the treatment of a disease called onychomycosis, or fungal nail infections. Onychomycosis is it's a very common condition, and existing therapies have some very clear shortcomings. Topical drugs or topical products, other topical products, have very long courses of daily therapy and only very modest cure rates. Oral products, medications you take orally, are more effective, but are hampered by the risks of toxic side effects. And you may have seen our announcement yesterday in which the World Health Organization designated Pazadeftide, our lead molecule, as the generic name for what we previously called HXP124. And in that announcement, we're very pleased to learn that Pazadeftide is the first in a new class of antifungal agent with a broad spectrum of fungicidal activity, all by a completely new and very different mode of action. It's already quite exciting time for us. And as we'll discuss today, Pazadeftide appears to have the particular product features that address the clear unmet needs in this market. Pazadeftide is safe and effective with a very convenient, short course of therapy, delivering very rapid resolution of disease. And we're also relatively advanced. We are in the middle of a phase 2B clinical trial, the results of which should be available middle of next year. And we are squarely focused on the US market, kicking off our US program at the end of this year. And on to the next slide, thanks. Just a little bit about the disease. Onychomycosis, it's an infectious disease. It's caused by the colonization of fungus in and under the nail plate, and it's extremely common. Something like 1 in 10 people suffer from a fungal nail infection. Very common disease. It's particularly common in older patients and immune-compromised patients. And as onychomycosis progresses, it results in the thickening and drying and discoloration of the nail, and often disfiguration and pain as the nail separates from the nail bed. It is an enormous healthcare burden. Patients will have multiple doctor's visits annually and suffer from the pain, discomfort, and quite a negative impact on their quality of life. Next slide, please. And existing therapies, as I said, do not meet what the consumer is looking for here. It's treated typically using either topical antifungal liquids or oral antifungal pills. And the patient acceptance of topical therapies is affected by the need to apply these treatments daily for anything up to a year. And in that period, the cure rates are very modest. Conversely, the oral medications, they are more effective, but are typically avoided by patients just because they have safety concerns. And so the schematic here really outlines the market need that we're after here. Patients avoid oral medications, topical products are thus preferred, but the long courses of therapy and the low cure rates result in frustrated customers looking for a better solution. And in contrast, Pazadeftide promises to be very different. Again, it's a topical treatment, safe and effective, with a very convenient short course of therapy and rapid resolution of disease. And we think this product meets that very clear market opportunity very neatly. On to the next slide. And I can say this because we have data out of a clinical trial we recently completed. It's a phase 1 study where we're enrolling patients with onychomycosis. All patients were treated for just 6 weeks. Just to put that in context, it's not a year, it's just 6 weeks. And they were treated in the study with either Pazadeftide or vehicle, which is the drug formulation without the drug in it. And the patients were evaluated both for safety and for efficacy, followed at regular intervals out to 12 weeks. And in the next slide, it's a phase 1 study. We're very focused on safety here. And the good thing to report is that it is a very safe drug. First study in humans, pleased to see that there were no adverse events, safe and very well tolerated, no local redness or irritation, and quite nicely, the drug is not detected in the bloodstream, and we saw no evidence of any systemic toxicity. Next slide, please. And one of the great benefits of working with pazodeftide is that we're treating a dermatologic infection. And so you can actually see the drug working in real time. And that's one of the reasons why I described this story as a really easy one to explain. Because I've got a very short time-lapse image here to share with you. And it's an example of the treatment of one of our subjects in this first clinical trial. And we've taken photos both pre-treatment and at weeks 2, 6, and 12. And there's two processes that are going on here, both penetrating the nail and killing the fungal infection. That's the initial step. And then you're starting to see the healthy, uninfected nail grow out clear. And so just so you get that clearly, why don't we play that video again? And you can see the before treatment image and then the demarcation of the infected area growing out. And as at just 12 weeks, you can see that we've almost completely cleared that nail from its prior fungal infection. Thanks very much. Let's advance to the next slide. And let's look at some of the data that we generated in this clinical trial. This, you'll recall there were two steps on the previous slide. This is the first step, which is killing the fungus. This graph is showing the rate of mycological cure, the graph on the right there. Green is pazodeftide, purple is the vehicle with no drug in it. And you can see that over 50% of patients on drug successfully killed all their fungal cells. And the difference, this is important, the difference between the active and the placebo or vehicle is dramatic. What is equally impressive is that we report the mycological cure being 2x better than the next best available currently marketed treatment. And that's at the same time point, and this is after only 6 weeks of daily therapy. Let's have a look at the next slide. And you'll recall from the previous slide, there were two steps. The second step was to observe the growth of healthy nail growth. And again, the graph on the right-hand side is showing clear nail growth, specifically what proportion of patients have less than 10% of the nail infected. And again, green is pazodeftide, purple is the vehicle, and you can see an almost immediate response to the drug. Within 2 weeks, the drug arm separates from the vehicle arm. And that's powerful for two reasons. First, because our goal is to deliver healthy, clear nails, and that's powerful evidence that this is starting to happen. But more importantly, this is the immediate and rapid response to therapy is quite unique. And patients are encouraged by this powerful, visible message that the medication is actually working. Next slide. And what does this all mean in the real world of delivering a successful medicine, which patients and clinicians are likely to use? We've conducted a lot of market research in this space, and you can see that whether you are a patient who's looking for an easy to apply topical solution, rapid improvement in the appearance of the nail, early affirmation that the drug is working on a very short course of treatment, or if you're a physician who's wanting to know that the product is effective and will cure the infection they're trying to treat, and that it's safe, and quickly know that their patients are responding to therapy, or if you're a payer and you don't want to put one of your patients on medication that's going to last for a whole year and know that they probably won't comply with a full course of therapy and won't use the drug. They want to know that they're getting what they're paying for. So we think we've got a product that addresses all of those issues and likely to deliver something in a large and underserved market. Next slide. And just very quickly, this is where we are right now in the middle of a phase 2 clinical trial. We're testing 3 active arms, looking to optimize the dosing strategy for our final testing program next year in the US. We're looking at 12 weeks of dosing versus 30 weeks of dosing, and then 12 weeks of dosing followed by once a week. Those are the 3 active arms. That study's enrolling patients, and we should have results from this in the middle of next year. Next slide. We've got extensive granted patent protection here, multi-layered patents protecting both the drug, its formulation, and also we benefit from market exclusivity on drugs like this. Our growth strategy is very focused in the US. The interesting dynamic is that the Japanese market is very attractive, although it's quite an insular market. And so our strategy there would be to secure a collaborative agreement with a Japanese partner. Next slide lays out our development plan. You know, we've had some very nice achievements over the last few months as we've completed that phase 1 clinical trial. We've initiated this phase 2 clinical trial. We listed on ASX late last year. And then going forward, we're completing our manufacturing scale-up activities as we head towards phase 3 and a commercial launch, filing an IND with the FDA to initiate our US development program, and delivery of our phase 2B results, as I said, in the middle of Q2 2022. And on the final slide, I'd just like to summarize some of the things that we've seen here. A, that onychomycosis is a very common disease. It's a very large indication, a very poorly served market. Bezadeftide is an entirely new and different approach to treating this disease. We have a product with the features of a safe, effective, convenient, short course of therapy, which rapidly clears the infection. And I think it's likely to be a very successful product commercially. So thank you very much indeed for your time today. That concludes my presentation. And I'll be happy to take some questions now if you'd like to leave that slide up.
Thanks, Michael. Can you talk a little bit about the business model? Like, how do you price your treatment, and how big's the market?
Well, it's a very large market in terms of the number of people that suffer from this disease. So just in the US, 20 to 30 million people have got onychomycosis. Those that actually seek treatment are around about 3 million patients. It's dominated by the topical therapies, and there's also the oral therapies. And a typical course of therapy with the existing products that are on the market is in the range of $3,000 to $6,000 for a course of therapy. We don't think we need to price anywhere near that. We can make a lot of money with a much more competitively priced product that we think is going to meet exactly what the payers, patients, and clinicians are looking for.
And is that a prescribed product, or will that be something you can simply buy from the chemist? Because I know some of these products can be really quite expensive.
Yeah, ours will be a prescription product. It's a product, high strength, high efficacy. It's a product that you're going to have prescribed by your clinician when you're ready to get serious about treating your disease.
And can you talk a little bit more to the timeline? I know you didn't have a lot of time to spend on that slide. Can you give us a rough idea of timing?
Overall timing, so we're in the middle of our phase 2B clinical trial right now. As I said, results from that will report out in the middle of 2022. At that time, we'll have got ourselves up and running with some of the preliminary work that we need to do in the US, with a plan to initiate a phase 3, a global phase 3 program towards the back end of 2022. Run that phase 3 program, seek approval for the product from FDA, and launch sometime thereafter.